he's angry and constipated.
Mad Men, which is a show you've definitely never seen.
It's not good.
Well, it's longer than 2 minutes.
Feelings don't dictate behavior. Behavior dictates feelings.
So should we get like jobs while we're here?
Welcome back to
Buckle up, baby.
Buckle up. Episode 71?
71.
Okay. The summer has ended, Michael.
Yeah.
It felt long.
For those who don't have children, I didn't know this before I had kids. There's a twilight zone in between camp and school.
Yeah.
That can just be brutal if you don't do it well.
To be honest with you, I haven't really experienced it as much as a parent. I've been a parent for a while, but this summer, I think there was a particularly long one. Yeah. And I said, I think I tweeted that it felt like we're all actors now doing our own stunts. That's what this last 2 weeks was like. We're parents without, this is like the only time of year we're ever all full-time parents. Yeah. We're all full-time moms now. We're all stay-at-home moms with our kids. Like everything, I hadn't been in the studio in like a week and a half because I was like, they're all here.
I have some shame about like sending, my kids to daycare. Someone should be home with them. And I'm like, if they were home full time, I would do an awful job. They'd be watching TV constantly. They're so much better off there.
Is there a part of you also that's also like, it's not that hard?
Not really.
No, really? You have a new respect for it?
I've gotten more, compared to last summer, I've gotten, I think, a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
We were having conversations last summer where I was like, I was having a really hard time enjoying any of it.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot better with that, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I had a good time. I was trying to remind myself, like, this is the last time I'll be able to hang out with them when they're like almost 3 and 18 months, That'll never happen again. So this is cool, enjoy it.
I was getting, by the end of it, as much as I was having like cabin fever from like being off work and in this sort of like quality time window, and that was like getting to me and I was getting anxious to get back. I was also like having all these sentimental thoughts of like, like there's a clip of Jordan Peterson talking about, your life isn't margaritas on the beach. You don't want to strive for that. It's how your wife greets you at the door. You have that right. You got 80% of your life together,
Yeah.
So, I was thinking about that as like, we're doing all these, like we took the kids up to Long Island for the week. When I say Long Island, I mean
to Long Island.
I knew you'd catch that. I did that on purpose. That was a plant on purpose.
Yeah, there's a neighborhood in Long Island we like to go to.
Yeah, but we took them for the week, and I was thinking to myself, it's not really the things you do with your kids. It's like the drives there and the drives back. Like forget about what trip you're going to take with everybody and how that goes. Like, is the drive there and the drive back, when you're driving back, when it's all said and done, and you're in the family with your car and the kids are sleeping in the back, like, is that a good zone? Are you in a good place?
Are you?
Yeah. That is.
How do you achieve that?
How do I achieve that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not like patting myself on the back for it, but it's just like, it's just more of a moment of gratitude than
you're saying you feel like you're in a good place, not your car is like a happy.
No, I just feel like grateful.
Got it.
For that.
Okay.
Like those moments, I think, are the ones that like hit me the most.
Right.
Like when you've done all the things and done all the effort of like trying to have fun and make memories. It's like all of a sudden you kind of find yourself in those like, to the opposite effect. Remember that Louis C.K. joke where he's like, when he goes outside the car and he walks around, that's his vacation.
That's the best
joke.
Like,
it's those small little moments. And I'm tying it back to what Jordan Peterson said. It's like, it's how your wife greets you at the door when you open. It's not like these big flashy moments in life that are like going to make or break your sense of fulfillment. It's those smaller things, like the defaults, like the end of it all, when you've packed up and you're finally driving home, like it's dark, you're listening to music. We do like night drives too, try to avoid traffic. Yeah. And it's nice. The kids are just like, it's just easier because no one's anxious anymore.
Yeah.
Kids have had all the activity they're going to have for the day. And in those moments, is it just like, are you feeling, or are you feeling, that moment is important to like check with yourself. And for me, when it feels right, I appreciate that.
I like that
more than like, oh, we went to this thing and we did the thing, we did all the right things, we checked all the boxes. They went to this thing, we got this. It's like, no, you're in the car driving home and everyone's just like,
yeah.
Are you like, do you feel good about that?
Right. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So I'm saying sentimental thoughts.
Yeah.
It's not the trip you took, it's the drive home.
Right. That's great. That's great stuff, man.
Okay, so can we clip that and get some inspirational music just to make sure We have an assistant now. Just kidding.
Xander. Xander hasn't been here in forever. Freaking forever.
He disappeared.
Xander the man.
Yeah, I texted him. I'm like, hey man, just checking on this week. He's like, oh, I'm in Israel.
Yeah, we talked about it. It was very like the 22-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in Israel.
Oh man,
love you, Xander. Love you, Xander.
Xander was great.
Yeah.
He saved one podcast episode.
Yes,
it wouldn't have been able to happen without him.
What was that again?
I forgot. I brought both sets of car keys with me.
Oh,
and my wife needed them, and Xander saved the day.
Yeah.
He was great though.
How were your drives home from your things?
Well, something I realized is that Sarah might have helped me realize this, but like the way you feel is cascades throughout the car. So like if you're anxious and uptight about it, the kids are going to start getting anxious and uptight about everything. So I've been working on that a lot. I think those moments are probably something I've been working on. Like just when there's nothing to do and things aren't going as planned, just being like, the kids don't know that the day hasn't gone as planned. They're having a great time. Right. Enjoy it, and also caring a lot less about what other parents think of me. I've been working on that a lot. I think it was a good summer.
I think that one thing I give myself credit for in general is I don't take the stuff for granted that everyone warns you not to take for granted in this time period.
Like what?
Like they're little, it's temporary, it moves fast, and I am constantly aware of that. Yeah, and I'm not like. I said that at the time when they were like babies. I said it when we lived in LA, when we were just getting there. Like I always, I try or naturally.
Maybe that's your thing. You're like, that's how you hold the mic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like the Freddie guys.
Yeah, what's his name? What's her name? Bobby something. She's like, she always holds it handheld. Who's Freddie?
The FRDI guys. The draft guys.
They're always holding it. Yeah.
I love those guys.
Meaning, I always try to appreciate like everything. Like as it's happening and not get caught off guard when I'm like, oh my God. I still guilty of it. It still happens where I'm like, I didn't appreciate that. But I really appreciate their age right now. And when it gets annoying, I'm also like, yeah, we're going to look back at this time and be like, why did we ever get annoyed with the kids? Yeah. What did they ever do anything that bad when they were this age? Right. And it doesn't change. I still get annoyed. Yeah. It still happens all the time. But like, I know I'll look back, like just like you look back at a time before you had kids and you're like, what was I ever worried about? I could do anything. Right.
Why didn't I go out? Yeah. Even with that one time. Yeah. What was I doing?
What were we doing about like 6 p.m. then? Yeah. I don't even know. I talked to a mutual friend of ours, and he used to say it all the time. He's like, I remember like we got home late from this, and I was like, who cares? Like, oh yeah, you were supposed to meet there, you didn't, but who cares? There's no kids involved. Yeah. It's like, so what?
Yeah. Yes, I don't know if you're talking about the same mutual friend, but he has this philosophy that I don't know if he's ever said it like this, but I've gained this from him. Yeah. Of it's never going to be easier than it is right now for you. So like your wife's pregnant, so like, oh, I can't go out because she's pregnant. It's when she has the baby, it's going to be even harder to go out. And like, oh, I have 2 kids. Like you think when you have 3, it'll be easier. Like life just keeps getting harder. So like if you can't do it right now, you'll never be able to do it.
It's a good It's a good applicable philosophy for everything. Well, because then when you have the free time, you'll be like old and can't move.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, eventually, yeah. And they're like, oh, like all of a sudden, yeah, it's hard to physically get around. So
I made a sentimental video once, like a cheesy one, because every once in a while I'm like, this is a thought, and I put it out there. And I'm not joking. It's like some of the only few posts every once in a while I'm not kidding. Yes. It was called The Golden Years, where it's like everyone's like, oh man, like, I'm always looking back at like some people look back at high school. They're like, man, those were the best of the times. That was the golden years. And it's like, no, some people, well, then you get to college and you're like, oh man, it's like now we're like freer. We're not like constricted by high school. We can actually do what we want. And I have no real responsibility yet. No, those are the golden years. Oh, and then you're like early days, you're married and it's just, there's no kids yet. It's golden years. But then you have kids and then they're small and you're like, oh man, those are the golden years because now they're older. But then they're teenagers and you have like real relationships with them and they're like real people. That's the golden years. Then they move out of the house. And then you're like, maybe you're empty nesters, but you can like travel, whatever it is. Maybe you have more accumulated wealth and you can do more things. But then you realize, like, in each phase, every single time, maybe you're always, depending on your mindset and perspective, you're always in the like the prime if you want to be. Maybe. I don't know if it's true. It seems a little, what's the word? It seems a little like lofty and like fluffy, an idea of like, okay, Because I actually think, things are going to get really much harder, and they will.
Well,
but at the same time, if you look at it, like, you can always view things as like, oh, that was the worst time, or that was the best time, depending on how you want to look at
it's
it.
the attitude of waiting or projecting onto the future for like, when it'll be better or good.
Yeah,
I
or
think that's the unhealthy part. Like, just be like, right now is great.
Yeah,
It'll also be great later.
Try to find optimize like whatever you can now that make it as good as it can be now, and not thinking, oh, if I just do this and this, it'll be better then.
You had a good one of after your kids got back from like
skiing.
School.
You watched that one?
And you had hot chocolate in the mall, and you're like, they don't know it, but this feeling is something that'll stick with them for the rest of their lives.
Well, I said I'm living in the future memories of my children.
Yeah.
That was the line.
I like that.
I said, like, they don't realize, like, I'm looking at them, it's like they're looking at me, they're just like living in the moment, but they don't know that they'll look back and be like, yeah, remember when, like, oh, we used to bring us hot chocolate and we would ski. They're gonna have that. They just don't know it, and I know it, and that's when you go, oh, that's when you get the pain.
Yeah.
Like, you exist, there's a nerve, there's like a sentiment parent nerve that happens with kids all the time that is constantly like being like felt a little. There's always like a little bit of sensation there, and then it like will get like this weird like pain, sentiment, sad, happy thing that happens constantly with kids when you have kids.
I think nostalgia means pain in Greek.
Means pain?
Don Draper from Mad Men, which is a show you've definitely never seen.
No,
he gave
because it's not good.
It's not good, right? Well, it's longer than 2 minutes.
I see. I've seen clips.
He gives this famous speech about he was trying to make a pitch for the Kodak. This Kodak projector that you could put pictures into it, and it would turn around and show all the pictures, and they called it the wheel. And he said it's not a wheel, it's a carousel. And he gave a speech about how the word nostalgia comes from the Greek word for pain, something like that. Yeah. It's associated with it hurts.
When you hear a song that's like so good it hurts, and but like that feeling, that nerve that people relate to, where like something is so joyous or like fulfilling and wonderful that it hurts.
Right.
That's how it feels with kids a lot. When you watch them do anything, or the smallest thing, or go through something, or get on a bus, or leave, or go to camp for the first time, like it hurts. And it's almost like because they start to, especially when they start to do things that you remember for yourself. It's one thing when they're like babies, that's all cute. And once they start to live parts of their life that you can identify with from your own memory, they're like crossing a section of like, I think part of it is like, you kind of know that the innocence that they're in, and you know what's coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, knowing your kids are going to suffer and need to suffer is hard also. Like, knowing at the time we didn't know, like what was coming, like this. And I'm sure, like, maybe I wonder, like, do my parents look at us? Do our parents look at us and be like, just wait till 40s and 50s, man. Like, you know?
I don't think they think about it
they don't, because they're boomers. They don't think about us. I always wonder if that's the case. Like, I keep thinking back, and I'm like, oh man, like first 2 years working after college, they have no idea how bad it is for them right now.
We just saw a picture of ourselves from like a month or like a few months before COVID.
So 2016. It's 2016.
2016. I guess it's almost 10 years ago. I guess it's a long time ago.
8 years ago. It wasn't a good feeling.
We looked much better than we do now.
Yeah.
But when I see that, I think to myself, like, I look much better now than I will in 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So appreciate it.
I always say that with weight. I'm like, I think when I'm like 300 pounds, soon by me, I'll be like, man, was I... I can't believe I was ever that thin. This is the fattest I think I am.
I still in my head think like when I grow up I'll be tall.
like it's coming.
Like I'm gonna get into shape. I'm gonna be like really strong when I grow up. I'm gonna get into shape.
If you had a growth spurt, that would be so amazing. If like you came back one summer and I'm like, Michael, you're like, put on 3 or 4 more inches.
A joke that I always tell about people when people ask me about friends, like, oh, how's Benji doing? A joke that cracks me up. I always go, oh yeah, did you hear? He grew like 7 inches.
That's very you.
They're like, what? And it cracks me up every time, and no one ever really laughs at that.
Well, I still hope maybe we'll live longer and get in shape. There's a funny joke by a guy, Jay Dickerson, I think his name is. I forget. Nickerson? Jay Nickerson?
Nick Jayerson, I think.
No. A different guy, but he said
Jay Okerson?
No, a Big J, different guy. Yeah. I think I'm getting it right. Something Nickerson. He said In your 20s, you want to look good without a shirt off. In your 30s, you want to look good dressed. You want to look decent dressed. I butchered the joke. In your 20s, you want to look good without a shirt off. Without a shirt. In your 20s, you want to look good without a shirt on. In your 30s, you just want to look decent dressed.
Yeah.
I asked my wife, do I look like I work out? She's like, you look like you work out, but it also looks like you never miss a cheat day.
You asked your wife that? Or
No,
that's
that was
joke?
the joke.
That's
That was the
yeah.
joke. You look like you never miss a cheat day.
Yeah.
But
Being able to sit in a t-shirt, look at myself on camera. It's been inspiring. I've been this summer
has it
been
made
bad.
you more in terms of food?
I've
and
been doing the fasting, and I was working out until I hurt my back, and
What
I
happened?
hurt my back in like June.
Oh,
I like re-hurt it.
yeah.
30s.
30s.
I don't know if
I think I remember a little bit.
You know what actually happened? I got so desperate. I saw an ad on Instagram that said like, "Hey, are you having lower back pain on one side? Download my PDF, and I'll tell you how to solve it."
You actually did
It's like,
that.
I don't give a fuck. I'll
Was
do
it
it.
was it paid?
It was $17. I was like, you know what? If this helps, it's less than a session of physical therapy,
It found you.
and it's the best. The twist is, it's been the best thing that's ever happened.
Really?
Totally helped.
Those things never work.
I know it
And it
totally
did.
helped. Yeah, just these hip exercises. I don't know how they found me, but like lower back pain on one side is my thing for the last couple of years.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you see PDFs online,
What happened with me
Do
was
it.
I had this terrible lower back pain persisting forever, and it was like getting into cars was like, ugh. Maybe I got used to it, but I also got myocarditis and was put on so much Motrin,
yeah,
like 800 milligram horse pills of Motrin for months. I was like,
yeah. Well,
and then the pain kind of subsided after
you
that.
messed me up because you went to a physiatrist,
Physiatrist.
and you came back and you're like, this is bullshit. They just have you doing these little exercises, like
Yeah.
bullshit. And then I went and I was like, oh, Ami's right. This is all bullshit. What I'm realizing now is like those little exercises they give you like are just that's just maintenance that you need to do the rest of your life. And even though it's not, that's just what's necessary.
I saw a
these
clip-
little stretches and these little things.
I saw a clip with David Goggins
Yeah.
on Chris. He's like, I stretch for 2 hours every night. So I stretch every morning. He said he runs like 12 miles every morning. 12 miles every
I don't
morning.
have friends. I don't have a family.
I cut off my arm, grew back because I'm not like other people. I can't do it.
He's a physical psychopath.
Yes, he is.
He is like, his body is psychopathic.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
He's the best at that.
So when I see him with the shirt off, there's still a part of my brain that goes, one day.
Yeah,
One day.
I know. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see that it'll happen.
Yeah.
But he's crazy. He says he
Yeah.
stretches for 2 hours every night.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, "What about recovery days off?" He's like, "You want to know what the secret is, Joe? I don't take any days off. 7 days a week." And he runs minimum 7 miles.
Yeah.
Takes about an hour and a half. And then one guy was interviewing him and was like, "So that's it. There's nothing else. You're just
he
doing fitness all day."
He sounds fun.
Yeah, no. He's like, "There's time. There's time."
Yeah.
Maybe he's right though, because if you think about how crazy that is, the workout regimen wise. So let's say it takes. What's happening here, Michael? Let's say it takes an hour and a half to do that 7 mile run, right? And what's happening?
Well,
here?
maybe just try holding it. Maybe you like it.
Maybe I like the vibe. So maybe it takes him an hour and a half to do that run.
Yeah.
And then an hour and a half, and then 2 hours of stretching a night. I have probably wasted an hour and a half in the morning and
Yeah.
wasted 2 hours at night.
He probably is not on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm sure I've wasted that amount of time on a regular basis for a while.
Yeah.
Shows.
Right. Well, he probably working out probably calms him down. Like it probably helps him decompress.
Yeah, I'm just saying in
It's
terms
the
of hours
opposite.
in the day.
Yeah.
Is
Right,
the
right,
opposite with you?
No, but at 8 p.m. after a long day,
Yeah.
the idea of working out is a burden for me.
Right.
For him, so I'm like, the idea of watching TikTok is a relief. For him, the idea of running is probably a relief. Like, oh, finally I get to
No,
run.
he says very openly and explicitly that he hates running.
Really?
And that's why he does it. He's like,
I
it's the
hear
thing,
that,
it's the
I
thing,
hear
it's the
that.
thing, Joe, I hate the most. People are like, you must love running. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And that's why he does it.
Yeah,
but then he
that's
loves
miserable.
doing something he hates.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably, I bet
He's just built different.
He's got like, he's probably disconnected from himself in some way.
But he's also like a savant of physical endurance and fitness
Yeah.
and discipline.
Yeah.
Like he possesses a skill that's on a savant level.
Right, you probably, I imagine if you get that way by being numb, by not feeling anything.
Yeah, I don't know how you get, like the thing about people like that is they're always like, you have a choice, get after it. But I wonder how much of it is just like, you are gifted with this ability. Oh, I think Andrew Huberman talked about this on his podcast. Like what Goggins has tapped into is that feelings don't dictate behavior. Behavior dictates feelings. So he's very much action driven first. What does not matter what he feels like doing. He's very much gifted and skilled at detaching however he feels about something to the behavior that is necessary to do it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't feel like running, but he runs, and then his feelings change.
Right. I wonder what the healthy balance for that is. I was like that for a long time, and now I'm in the mode of
you were like
being
Goggins?
more in touch with well, in terms of like work and stuff, and like it would be more like my ambition would dictate everything. Now I've been trying to get more in touch with like how I feel, and like
what do you think is better?
I think I probably need to go a little bit more the other way of like, but it's a process where like I'm sure that surfaces in other areas of his life where he's not he doesn't he can't feel
right but I have thinking I vacillate the word oscillate whatever between those two states. Oscillate is like just like rotations. Vacillate maybe one side to the other.
Good distinction.
Vaseline. The burnout, like, don't overdo it, because if you burn out, you're done. And like now Gary Vee's kind of singing that tune on like if you burn out and you're done, then like that's not good either. So stop. It's okay.
Right.
And your engagement may go down and your follower count may go down. It's okay.
Yeah.
He never would have said that like 15 years ago. But then I hear someone like Mr. Beast sits down. People want to perform at his level. He's like, I don't know, this whole like avoiding burnout culture. Like I just work until I can't work anymore, and then I stop for a little bit, but like maybe just like half a day, and then I go back to work. Like I don't need to take breaks. I don't need to take days off. I just work, and like I just make videos, and like I don't stop working. Like he doesn't think about work-life balance. He just works until he can't anymore, and then he goes back to it.
Yeah.
It's not like he's consciously building. There's
no one model for everyone. You have to figure out what works for you.
Eminem and Akon, there's a story of Eminem and Akon working in the studio. He's like, so he throws these verses down. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. He goes, time for lunch. 12 o'clock, Eminem stops. Doesn't matter what's going on. Middle of the verse, he goes, time for lunch. And he built into the cake, like he takes a break for lunch. Then he comes back, they going. He's like, He's like, dude, we got to finish the song. We got one more verse left. 5 p.m. I'm going home. I'll be back. And then he's back in the morning for the same exact
By the
thing.
way, it's easy. How old is Mr. Beast? 27?
12.
Yeah. So, no, it's easy in your 20s.
Yeah, to have the energy.
To have the energy and do that. And then like you also see all these like Facebook millionaires, like people like tech millionaires who built a company and like they sold it by 30 and then they start dating and then they have a family and they have kids and they have 50 million in the bank. Like it's easy. It's like what do you do when you're 35 and you don't have 50 million in the bank? And you want some kind of balance. It's less easy to just burn out, and like you have to figure that out.
Yeah, I think everyone's looking for the one size fits all model. Like if that guy did it this way, like is that the right way? But I think you said it right. You're like you have to find what works for you to thrive. So if you need to be disciplined and build in breaks into the cake, even when you think you don't need them, because in the long run it'll hurt you, then I guess you got to do that. You know. But that I just end up still jumping around between like. That pain threshold. Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm a little tired, but like, I'll do another thing and I'll do another thing. Yeah. I'm a little tired. Should I say like, hey, if you're a little tired, take the break because it'll have diminishing returns. It's hard to know that about yourself.
Right. That's where I'm at, like with learning also, like, or like reading. Like, I'll be reading at night and like, I'll be read 3 sentences and get tired and be like, all right, time to stop. And lately I've been being like, no, like it's hard work. Like keep going. Yeah. Like read 3 pages, get 3 pages done. Yeah. But that's me vacillating back in the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't have the answer because I'm like, no, it's really hard. And it's just like that is a hard sentiment to live by. It's just all really hard work. And I subscribe to it, but how do you know when the hard work is self-defeating? How do you know if it's all part of the hard work? Because if hard work is just unpleasantries that are involved in any successful endeavor, how do you know where the optimal place is for you to like make sure you're serving your purpose best? And that's why I felt when I took a break from posting for basically like a week or so. Right. But I was just like, I guess I discovered it. I guess I was just like, okay, I've reached the point where I'm like, I burned a lot of gas in the fuel and I need a break, and I took a little weight break and nothing happened, and that was it. Yeah. It's like a week and a half or whatever. I guess you kind of know it reveals itself to you in the process.
Yeah, I think so.
On the subject of comedy, though,
I
crossed the threshold that we can talk about.
Okay.
I did not my first, but like I had a set that I was booked for as a headliner, and I got on stage and did an hour and 10 minutes of stand-up comedy.
Yeah, right. So let me set the context a little
Please.
bit. I just want to do a quick time check before we do that, just to know where we're at here.
Yeah, sure. What are we at, 3:19 or 3:39?
3:19.
There you go. Set the context. We've been this summer. In general, this summer has been a busy summer for comedy for me, and I want to talk about that.
So we had Nachman Kanofsky on, most dangerous man on YouTube.
Oh, for sure.
Can't believe the episode.
He wants episode 2. He's been asking.
Oh yeah, let's get him in here.
For sure. A regular.
Start again. Start again. He built Vacation Village, which is like a let's call it a bungalow colony for lack of a better word, but it's much nicer than bungalow colony.
But not much nicer than anything else.
It's not fancy, but it's like real houses.
Like
it's nice. It's like a nice
development
he built.
Yeah.
And you've been going there your whole life. That's where you met Elon Gold. He groomed you as a small child. And you saw him come as a Vacation Village guy and do comedy, and you were like, wow.
And it's in the
really
Catskills,
cool.
which is like the OG Borscht Belt.
Exactly.
It's part of that scene a little bit where a lot of comedians came through, and where stand-up was kind of invented.
So and you've been like developing material for decades, like just in your head about Vacation Village.
Yes.
And then they hire you to do comedy night at Vacation Village.
Right. Well, building up to that too, it just happened to be one of these summers where things kind of like seeds that had been planted or whatever. The Chosen Comedy Festival happened, and I didn't do any spot on the main stage, but the opening night I was a part of that at the Cartwright Hotel in the Catskills. Big in the like very much in the inner Jewish community, but like did that. Then I did another set at Stand Up New York that whole week, and I felt very much a part of the energy of the Chosen Comedy Festival. And then out of the set I did in the Catskills, I got booked at the Vacation Village to do a set there. And in between that, I did a set in Houston where I was hired as the featured act to do 45 minutes for like a young professionals event. But anyway, like I was like, wow, like, oh my goodness. And each one of them had their own like anxiety that came with it of like, wow, okay, like is a new threshold I'm passing. I did something in Arizona, then after that I got a Houston gig. So all of it throughout this summer, these were dates that I had this summer for stand up. And what I can say is like, remember in The Karate Kid when he's wants to train with Mr. Miyagi, okay? And instead of training him, he has him paint a fence. Wax on, wax off. He's like, come on, Mr. Miyagi, come on, when are you going to teach me karate, Mr. Miyagi? Come on, I want to learn how to fight, Mr. Miyagi, Hey. And he's like, no. And he has him just do all these things, and he doesn't know why he's doing them. Every single day, just putting in this just like monotonous work of, just mundane tasks. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Paint the fence, paint the fence, paint the fence. And then there's this scene in the movie. It's a powerful scene where Mr. Miyagi goes, show me, paint the fence. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, my point being, you know the scene.
Yeah.
But then he goes, yeah, and he attacks him. And all of a sudden, he's going like this, and he's blocking every shot.
Yeah.
There is a moment for me where I was on stage at a lot of these different sets feeling like, okay, all that stuff that I would complain to you about of these like late night open mics in the city of working stuff out and writing constantly and running that through at a late night thing here and waiting a few hours to get on stage here. That's all like training. And I did well at these sets. I'm not going to say like I murdered, I did really, when I got to these opportunities where I was put in a situation when I was nervous, but I had to hold the mic for 45 minutes to an hour and entertain. I was like, it's sort of like you have like, how did it go as far as the audience was concerned? Like I killed and did really well with the audience. I have my own standards as far as where I know I could go and what needs work and all that. So that's sort of talk about that too. But the point is, the work works. It puts you in a position to be ready for these things, which is sort of what I anticipated, but forgot about a little bit and was reminded when I'm on stage doing stuff that I kind of know how to do this a little more than I did a year or two ago.
Right.
Building up this skill set, this craft, this muscle. I get on stage, and I know that if I was on stage in this exact moment, but it was a year or two ago, it would have gone differently. Maybe I would have pulled it off. Maybe I would have whatever. But it's like, all right. Like, I felt with a little bit of validation, whatever, that the training was working. Like, wax on, wax off, paint the fence, boom, boom. And I'm like, surprising myself a little bit by my familiarity with how to do it.
Awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I got on stage for my most recent set, and I get off, and an hour and 10 minutes had gone by.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was asked like at one point, you know, and I like, you know, how do you have, I'm like, I guess I have that. I was playing with new stuff that I might discard or whatever, but I had enough there. I'm like, I guess I can do an hour if I need to.
Right.
It doesn't mean in every scenario I'll work, and it wasn't a special. It wasn't like I would keep everything.
Yeah.
And I was playing around, but I was like, you know, you have to prove it to yourself sometimes on what you think you can do. So I was like, I was happy with that. There's parts of the performances I would nitpick and say, that didn't work so well. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I had one joke that bombed terribly, but I recovered from it. But it was...
What was the joke?
I said that the
I
boomers,
heard about this.
The boomers in the crowd look
I know
like...
what you did wrong, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
What, you do?
Yeah.
I said to the boomer, where are my boomers at in the crowd? You guys are all walking with a limp, hunched over, like your parents. You guys all look like Holocaust survivors who were never in the Holocaust. Silence. I know what I should have said right after.
I told you pitched me that joke, and I think I said, instead of saying Holocaust, say World War II.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would have helped.
I don't know. I don't think it would have. They just didn't bite. And I think there wasn't enough young people in the crowd to like their kids who could have laughed at it.
Right.
But I also could have recovered by saying silence. Exactly. Which is why we never must be silent in the face of anti-Semitism. And then they would have clapped for that, and I would have made my way out of it. But instead I just went... Anyway.
A lot of Jews are too sensitive about the Holocaust.
Yeah. So, is that a joke?
Have you been seeing the Elon Musk ADL thing?
Yeah, let's talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But anyway, the point is, I'm like, wax on, wax off. It felt a little. There was an element of that to it where I came off and I was like, should I be surprised that I was able to do that? I mean, I've been doing the work, so you get these moments that remind you that it works. Reps, repetition, rinse, repeat, putting your stuff through it. All of a sudden, you find yourself being able to defend in combat, which is what stand-up kind of is.
Do you feel more comfortable on the stage?
You know, it's definitely intense, and it requires a real mindset, and it takes a lot out of me psychologically. But yeah, now if a gig comes my way or whatever, if it's the right content, I'm not like, it makes you more confident to say like, I can do that. I have done it several times.
Right.
To the point where I got off stage and people were coming up and were like, that were super, you know,
Was it like a hometown hero welcome? Where did people
partially,
know you?
Yeah, some people. I don't know how many knew me because of like social media stuff. There's certainly a hometown hero because like my parents are there. I have cousins there. I have their friends, and then I have other people who kind of was like, that's the guy who does Prince Harry. There is a little bit of that, which I'm excited about because like before I get called on stage, sometimes there's like people like who are excited about it and stick around to see. So that's cool. Yeah. But I mean, there's a pain pleasure threshold to it all. That's still a lot of pain, a lot of like uncertainty. You know, don't have my 1,000 hours with it. Right. But now I'm also kind of ready to sort of introduce the musical side of stuff because, like, when I was doing music for so many years, I was like, I feel like I have some funny in me that I could do up here, but I don't know how that gets translated. Well, I don't know how to channel it. And now that I've been just doing this for a lot of my performance energy, I'm like, there's so much music I want to do.
You should do.
So I'm ready in that sense to sort of remember I said like I want to put the music here for a little bit and just develop this. I feel like now I'm at that point.
For you on the podcast. We should do a segment, I think, where you share something and maybe I share something.
Yeah.
But also, I would love for you to do like those impression loops like we do with Scott Galloway. Yeah. I wonder if you did those for like a month.
We were in a crisis now.
Yeah, where you would get with it. Maybe you'd figure something
on stage?
out. No, on TikTok.
Oh, interesting.
Just do one a day and see. Maybe you'll figure something out by doing it.
Yeah, I do like Jordan Peterson raps, where I do a rap as Jordan Peterson. Well, that's not a loop.
It's a little bit different.
It's not a loop.
A little bit different, yeah.
But I would do that live. I would like loop a beat and
so if you
JP
figure out
on the beat.
What's funny,
did I mention I only eat meat, steak, and olive oil? That's that. Sorry, not beautiful. You're too fat. That's a whole. I'm back on Twitter thanks to Elon Musk, who took a bunch of us.
It's different though than
live looping.
Yeah, it's a little more like
cheesy.
I
agree.
The looping thing is cool.
No, I would do that with a loop.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I would do that with the loop live. I do it in the video just with a track.
And you get different people speaking to each other too. You can do like him talking to Ben Shapiro on the same loop and
something
like that.
I don't know. A lot of it, you worry about being hacky and cheesy, and that's the problem with this stuff.
Money.
Money. Your impression is hilarious. But I will say one thing I'm working on is like my next sort of body of creative work to put on stage is songs that I have. Like if I have 10 songs that I know like I can play and perform
Yeah.
in a funny way. That's part of the set.
Yeah.
I should be okay to like do whatever. And that gives me a little bit of a sense of security that there's something to offer that I can rely on. But I did just with a mic, so I was like, okay, like I you know, I don't know if I can get away with the set in every context, but I was like, it's been an hour and 10 minutes.
Pretty
I'm
cool.
still rolling. It's past midnight and everyone's still here. It's like, oh my goodness, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's more weird. You're more just like, huh. Like I feel good about it, but I'm also just like, what? Like the wax on, wax off moment when he went like this. Like I said, like he did it. How did he block the shots? How did he know? He doesn't even know how he did it.
Right.
That's what happens with the reps. You were going to ask about
Elon
Musk and the
I want to talk
ADL.
about Elon Musk. I want to talk about. I went to the Ishay Ribo
Ishay
concert
Ribo.
and Mislabeled. I don't know if we're gonna have time for everything.
Okay. So Elon Musk and the ADL. Tell me what's going on. Are you following closely what's
No,
going
I just
on?
saw one article about it. I think Elon Musk said
Called them out.
The ADL was instrumental in getting advertisers off of the platform for like calling Twitter out for anti-Semitism, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of like publicly kind of jumping onto the pile against the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League, which is like kind of monitors anti-Semitism. But then we've had guests here before who have told us like the ADL kind of is anti-Semitic and like anti. I mean, this is like deep conspiracy like territory.
Yes.
But it was an interesting take that we take for granted that the ADL is like, you know, has obviously their right about how to like defend Jews against anti-Semitism. Their take was a little like maybe the ADL's not right. And like,
well, they're espousing malicious intention with them, that they have some devious agenda.
Yes, yeah, right.
Which I don't buy.
Right, the broader point that I would feel comfortable talking about on the podcast is like, you know, I think about it like this: if the Sephardi community went through the Holocaust, I'm curious how they would be handling it 75 years later. Like the Ashkenazi European community took a never again.
They would be like, it was so
silence.
bad anyway.
Yeah. They might have been like, it happened, we don't talk about it, and we move on. Like the Ashkenazim were like, it happened, we talk about it constantly. We build museums.
They move on.
No, like we build, but like we're very Holocaust centric. We're a very Holocaust centric community.
Holocaust conscious.
Same thing, whatever it is. Like I was saying that's their strategy of like, in order for it not to happen again, we have to stay conscious of it. There are other ways to think about it.
I hear what you're saying. It's
It's
Holocaust more broadly anti-Semitism conscious, and like wherever we see a trace of it, we call it out.
Right.
Like there was the Bradley Cooper nose thing we spoke about, where I was just like, guys, but they're like, no. The second you allow an inch, it goes a mile.
Right. Another attempt is like we're a strong. I'm not saying I advocate this, but like, we're a strong people with like a proud heritage. We don't have to constantly talk about the time we were genocided. We're strong now. It won't happen again. So shut up.
Right.
And like, we'll talk about it when necessary, but otherwise, let's project strength, not victimhood.
But a lot of the opposition to the ADL, which I might agree with, is one, not just the hypersensitivity to anti-Semitism where it may not exist or may be trivial and you're making it bigger, but also the fact that they're pretty much left-leaning and only go after anti-Semitism they might find on the right. Like Ben Shapiro made a video today or yesterday about how the ADL is a progressive organization that occasionally goes after Jewish causes, but make no mistake. And granted, they may overlap with certain things, that we share the same views on. But for the most part, the guy who runs it now was a former staffer for Obama and Clinton and Biden or whatever, worked in that, and is stumping for them and progressive causes for the most part. So when it's coming to making Trump look anti-Semitic or that kind of thing, like they're very much politically driven and not based on this theme that you're talking about.
They're an organization with donors, and they need to have a mission and a purpose, and like and
do they call
their
out
donors happy, and like every other organization, they're subject to
but do they?
everything.
But they have a specific bias, and do they go after the squad or hard left anti-Semitism?
Right.
They see it? I don't think
Probably
they.
not.
I don't know, but from what that point is being made by like Ben Shapiro and others, is like no, they don't. They just go after these accounts on Twitter that have are talking about issues that may be controversial and trying to just shut them down and censor them.
Right.
And I guess Elon Musk, from my surface understanding of what's going on, is he's calling them out for that.
I think. Well,
and there's a lawsuit. Is there a lawsuit?
I think he's
suing
threatened to sue them for like the lost revenue that they have with advertisers. I don't think Elon Musk has like. I think personally he's proving he doesn't really have that many principles. Like I think it just makes sense for him in his business right now to pile on the ADL.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
maybe it's a good
Well,
publicity move for him.
Jews are, they don't want to go to Mars.
Isn't he Jewish?
Elon? No.
He's not?
No.
I thought he's like a South African Jew.
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
totally
that
gone.
makes it so much worse. I thought he was Jewish,
No.
and I was like,
Not at all. No.
not a shred.
Not a shred. No. He's not Jewish.
Oh.
Elon, I know you would think, but
Elon.
he's not Jewish.
I thought his parents were Israeli South Africans.
You would think that just because the way the voice is.
No, they're not true.
No.
I wonder if he went to Burning Man this year.
Why?
Apparently, he has I guess I don't know if I wonder if it's like libel to say that. Apparently, he goes to Burning Man and he just has sex with like a ton of women.
That is a lie.
Like he has like a place and like women just come to visit. I've heard that.
He's
before.
just so pale that he has to
goes
put
to
mud
Burning
on
Man.
him to protect him from the sun.
He goes to Burning Man though, or he used
Really?
to. Yeah.
Interesting.
Chris Rock was there this year. And
Really?
he left in a helicopter.
Oh, I think I saw like people retreating. What a
Yeah.
crazy story that was. I didn't follow
Yeah.
much of it other than people got stranded there.
For some reason, I got fed these accounts for burners before Burning Man, so I started following them, and then I was able to follow them throughout the whole saga.
But it got like dangerous, right? Where people were stranded. I don't
I don't know if it was dangerous, but people were stranded until like yesterday.
Isn't it funny how that happens? Where you're like, well, can't wait to be here. Now you're here, and then as soon as like you're not supposed to be there,
Oh yeah,
turn.
I think the real burners like made the best of it, but I'm sure there were people like this.
just panicking.
Yeah.
Like something goes
It's
wrong.
my food. It's my food.
In a place that's supposed to be the most right. Like if
Yeah.
something goes wrong, it's like that much worse because
Yeah.
you're trapped.
Yeah,
Like tourist trapped. You know.
yeah.
You ever be doing something where I once went on like a boat ride. It ended up being 4 hours long, and I was like, it was hell.
Yeah. I heard a really funny story Bert Kreischer told where him and his agent got booked to do a show in Hawaii. And so what they did is they, instead of flying out the next morning, they extended it a week. And so they got to Hawaii, they did the show, they went out all night and then woke up the next morning just like totally burnt out. And they looked at each other and were like, so should we get like jobs while we're here?
Because it was too long.
Yeah, it's like we don't want to be on vacation this long.
Right. I've had that before. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a champagne problem, but yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So so that was the Elon Musk thing. So Ishay Ribo, just quickly, I went to see Ishay Ribo is an Israeli singer-songwriter, and he's kind of captured the what do you call it? Like the white dove, the
Zeitgeist,
no, what's the
purple cow.
what's the like Jesus's cup? In the Da Vinci Code, they were looking for it.
The Jesus's cup.
Yeah.
The Christ Becher. I don't
the
know.
Christ Becher.
The Christ Becher. It's called the Christ Becher.
he captured like the unattainable thing in Israel, which is appealing to both
Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah.
He captured the Holy Grail of appealing both to secular Israelis and religious Israelis with his music, and he's like one of the biggest stars in Israel. And he played last year in Queens at like that. And
Arthur Ashe Stadium. I was there.
I think it was Arthur Ashe or Forest Hills.
Arthur Ashe Stadium.
Arthur Ashe, which is big, and then this week he played at MSG. He sold out MSG.
He has done something no Jewish Israeli artist has done
Yeah.
in terms of that bridging the gap of all denominations of Jews that his music appeals to.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the world of Jewish music, if we just talk about that, there's like religious music that
Right.
people will listen to for religious artists who play for religious audiences. And then there's sort of like secular Hebrew music.
Yeah.
But no one has done what he's done. So he played at.
Right, and so his music is good and cool and hip, and so he
And
played,
meaningful and soulful and religious.
Right, so he played at Madison Square Garden, and it was one of those times where like if God for me and Sarah, if like God wants you to be somewhere, you'll be there. Like
Yeah.
I tried to get in tickets, they were like $300, like crazy expensive tickets. And like, so I didn't buy anything. And then like we had a friend who got like luxury box seats,
Yeah.
like one of those like skybox things for Fish. So Sarah's like, oh, let's ask them if they can maybe put in a request for Ishay Ribo.
Yeah.
And we got them, and suddenly we were there, like in like the best seats in the whole arena. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was really quite an experience. Like it really felt like I've had like fantasies. Like when I would go see Fish, like, oh, imagine if like a Hasidic Rebbe or someone could like fill MSG, like a stupid fantasy. And like I was there, and like Ishay Ribo was singing like, you know, the tune of the Baal Shem Tov. Like,
Was he?
yeah, I don't know if it was Baal Shem Tov or the or
Deep
Rav
cuts,
Levi's-
like real, authentic religious music
right.
that works but that's modern.
Yeah, no, and this wasn't even modern. He was just singing the tune like that Hasidim sing.
But
like,
through
it was
him,
crazy.
channeled
Yeah,
through him,
yeah.
it is modern.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
And the stadium, and they was singing it together, and it was really,
Oh,
really
I know what you're talking about. That somebody sent a clip of that.
moving and crazy. But then also it was such a weird thing because on the way there we were listening to Alex Edelman on 1840, David Bashevkins, and he said something really interesting where he thinks that his show, Jews like his show because it makes them feel seen. Which is funny because like Broadway is like almost stereotypically Jewish venue, right? Like, you know, all the composers and actors and comedians on Broadway, you feel like, oh, Jew can feel seen on Broadway, but like, but there is this like self-consciousness and like still anxiety about like being a Jew out in the world,
Right.
And like being in Madison Square Garden, I felt like there was this almost like fear running through it of like. It's like, is this safe? Like, can we like be doing this? Like us in Madison Square Garden?
It felt naughty.
It felt like
Edgy?
there was a discomfort there, and like
You did feel that when you were there?
uncertainty. Yeah, and I think his job as a musician was to get these people who like are not used to going to concerts, like
this.
especially at MSG, and like you know, like everyone, no one was standing up until 75% through the show, like the last third of the show, and I think his job was to be like, it's okay to be here, it's okay to have fun together. Like we all kind of know each other. We can have fun. You know, we don't just have to be at like a Siyum Hashas. We can like kind of dance a little and sing and like.
That's cool.
And it was the beginning was awkward, I thought, and then like he brought people on stage and like he really got Madison Square Garden full of like from Long Island Jews to like party, and it was pretty awesome to see.
That is cool.
And cool and like empowering and beautiful and nice.
I will say, I bet, as amazing as he is as an artist, there's also somebody on his team who is just as good at whatever this is to make something like this happen. Like,
What do you mean?
connecting the dots with the right people in event planning and booking and marketing to fill the garden. Like,
Oh yeah.
how they did this, I'm also just as impressed by.
Yeah.
Like, there's big artists with big audiences to galvanize this demographic across the spectrum of people to all fill up the garden. Somebody else, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's just the music in itself has the appeal alone, and it deserves it. It deserves that audience. But not everyone can do that. It's just amazing to bring I'm the most impressed by people who can get people into a seat. It's easy enough to like a post on Facebook, share something, talk about an artist, write an article. To get somebody to leave their house, come into a thing, that's the biggest commitment you can get, is a hard ticket sale of somebody to come and watch you and give up their night and go. That's commitment.
Yeah.
And he's able to do that. And the music deserves it because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
No,
But it could have been a bomb.
No, I just mean like we take it for granted. Oh yeah, so he's playing at the Garden now. How cool! But like whatever the behind the scenes are to make that happen, to build up to that. Who's making the call?
Positioning in a right way where the religious Jews felt comfortable and the secular Israelis in New York felt comfortable, and everyone felt comfortable going.
I don't know what goes into that, but the other thing I was gonna say about it was so somebody on the team I'm sure is equally impressive in making that stuff happen. But I was gonna say something about. Oh, I think that on the Alex Edelman point, I think there was a long chunk of our like childhood growing up. We grew up in like sort of the end of an era where Hollywood and show business was really all about trying to fit a certain mold. If you're gonna have every generation of show business has its certain thing you have to do. At one point, it was like, hey, you got to have a variety show. You got to do a little music. You got to sing. You got to dance. You got to do a little comedy, and that's how you. That's show business, baby. Then it's like more, divided up. There's dancers, there's singers, there's actors, there's this. There's not like the Renaissance person artist. But if you just look at it overall, for a long time, there existed this idea that you want to be a pop star, you got to look like this, you got to sound like this, you got to dress like this, you got to present like this. And I feel like the post-modern like sort of world we're in now of show business, or the current, whatever the word is to describe it, like the current state of show business is about standing out and having a unique story and brand that you bring to the table. Like that is favored more. And the more deep you go with who you are and share your story authentically, as opposed to trying to bury it to fit a cookie cutter thing, is what people are responding to. And maybe they always have, but
I think they always have. Now it's conventional wisdom to be different. The conventional wisdom was be like everyone else, but it was always the people who stood out who became the stars, like Barbara Streisand with her nose. Everyone was saying you got to get a nose job, but it was the nose that made her. Like the superstars were always the people who stood out. Now that's the advice you get.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying people liked genericism back in the day more than they do now.
Right.
I think they always liked the unique, but in order to find those stars, the business, I'm saying like the business of entertainment, the show business part was like, let's reduce our risk.
Yeah.
We're going to invest in people, so they better have as many things that we think would appeal or fit a certain mold that's the safest, best bet. Meaning they're making a bet. Yeah. And now you can build up your audiences on your own, so there is no one thing. Right. Like, think about music. Yeah. What style of music is dominant right now?
Hip hop.
But not even. I'm just saying.
What is it? You're saying.
I'm saying there is back in our day. Korn, Limp Bizkit. Right. It was rock. So rock is big now. Hey, if you're doing something outside of rock, I'm sorry. Like you know that you don't hear that anymore.
So this was the other thought I had when I was in there in the arena. I was thinking to myself like, this may be completely a product of algorithmic media, like because Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify can serve a very, very small niche exactly what it wants. Ishay Ribo was able to find the
Ishay Ribo.
Ishay Ribo was able to find the 50,000 people who like his stuff. He may never find an audience of 500,000 people, but there's 40,000 people who will pay for a ticket, and because Spotify can find them for him, they all come out to the garden. So essentially, it might not have been able to happen 10 years ago.
You went to a real life For You page for Ishay Ribo.
I did. I saw all my favorite influencers. I saw all my favorite
the For You page that applies to everybody in that room.
Yeah, exactly.
Ishay was a part of that. But I think you're right. It's a much more high-resolution, precise thing where Ishay can find every one of his fans.
It's a niche that...
Where back in the day, it's not like it's the show business's fault.
Right.
You just couldn't do that. You have to go by ratings, who's going to have mass appeal, who has the ingredients.
Right.
How is that random person with a niche, like Israeli singer-songwriter thing, going to find people back in the day? They're not going to get people to invest in them.
Right.
So you have to do like... Yeah, maybe it is a product of... I'm curious how he did it, because there was a time when Ishay Ribo was just doing open mics at Mike's Place, and no one knew who he was.
I heard his album in like 2016, I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it and being like, nah. and then he blew up, and I went back and listened to it. I was like, oh, this is great. And to me, I was like,
you're a tool.
I only like it. Yeah, because I'm a tool. But yeah, he was... if someone's listening and they know someone on his team... let us know. We'd love to talk to them.
We need a translator.
That'd be amazing.
We need a translator.
He goes, I am learned to English.
Is that what
he doesn't know a word of English.
I know friends of his. I'm friends with friends of his.
It's wild to me. It's wild to me how you could.
He's Moroccan, I think. I think he's French, Algerian, or Moroccan.
I think he's French. Yeah. I
Speaks
think
French.
Someone said if you go you can get through yeshiva without learning English.
Interesting.
In Israel, but you can't get through a normal school, like a regular school.
Oh, interesting.
Without learning English. Okay, last thing.
Cause we got. So that's Ishay Ribo.
Yeah.
Congrats to you, my brother, as a fellow musician. I got to tell you, you deserve it all. Music's amazing, and keep doing what you're doing. It's a beautiful thing. It's just a purely beautiful thing.
Oh, man, thank you, and thank you.
Yes.
I'm throwing my hat in the ring in the mislabeled world. So there's this podcast I'm obsessed with called Mislabeled.
Yes.
And they had...
Well, I know. I can do the guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're here with Michael. And tell us what you saw about the episode.
I love Zach. I love all that.
Is that him? Isn't that label, though?
I don't know.
Label talks like that.
Is that label?
Yeah.
I know that.
He's angry and constipated. And religious. So you disagree with Allah. You disagree with Allah. So if you want to get tagged, this is how to do it.
They had...
they'll share us.
I promised someone I would talk about it.
Oh.
They had Flatbush Girl on.
Yeah.
Apparently they have beef.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The whole
the
thing
beef
is so
what happened to her, and then they laughed about it.
And they laughed about it. So then they had her on and went at her. They went at her really, really strong.
You watched the whole episode?
I listened to like 45 minutes of it. It was amazing. No one knows what they're talking about.
Right.
She's like, no one really knows what they're talking about.
In the broader audience.
In terms of like, they're talking about the Aguna crisis of divorced women who can't get a get.
Yeah, who
they can't get out
divorced.
of the marriage in a religious context. Neither side knows.
So you think you're better than Goggins? You think you're better than
Goggins?
Goggins?
And so it's
a real inside baseball.
So interesting to me. Yeah. No. Well, it's forget about like throwing shade at anybody, but like these guys whose whole podcast is about going against the system and how the system doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for a lot of people. And we need new solutions. The moments a woman came in and threatened the system.
They got defensive.
They got very defensive. They're, this is our system. You cannot change halacha. You cannot change halacha. And like their whole podcast is about how they don't keep halacha. That's the charm of it. They talk their stories about they go out and get fucked up and do all these things. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah.
But then when someone comes in and like against like the system, they were like they fully put on the costumes of like defenders of the system.
Well, that's an interesting
It
call
was so
out.
interesting
Guys,
to me.
let's discuss it, huh?
So interesting to me. Yeah, not taking any sides, just watching it as like a sociological experiment.
Interesting.
Was fun. And
I gotta watch this episode. Did it end badly?
I don't know. I didn't listen to the whole thing.
I think Label, one of the main guys, went on Instagram afterwards and trashed her, like as a guest. Like she's a clown. She's a clown.
It's possible. It's possible.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
yeah.
that was my thing.
All right, we'll have to meet up with them and do a little.
I'd love to meet
crossover.
them. I know Zach a little bit from Crown Heights.
Yeah,
I like that guy.
But that is an interesting point. I gotta say.
That's all I wanted to say.
I hear that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that their main, like, one of their main themes was like, oh, you're right. They do talk about because they got earrings and they go out.
Yeah, that the charm of it is like there's people like us in the frum world, and we're gonna bring them all together and talk.
Right.
We're gonna have a big conversation through a podcast. It's fun. It's good.
They
It's
also
a good
got
idea.
neon. We don't have neon, but they have neon.
We need neon. We need neon. We have a lot to learn.
We have a new logo over here that we
Yeah.
didn't talk about. Everybody check it out. We'll end the episode here on our brand new logo brought to you by Vinyl Mike. Follow Vinyl_Mike, our designer who reached out on Instagram and did a nice thing. And let's just talk about it for 1 second, Mike, because I like that I look zen, relaxed, focused, and you are a mess.
I like that I have all my hair though in the animation. That was a nice.
But if you squint at it and imagine that the white is bald,
then
you're
but
like,
then you would have the same thing though. I mean, you have like a little bit more than me.
then we
maybe?
look terrible. It doesn't. It's shadow.
Maybe
Yeah,
I have
he gave you a
more.
lot of hair.
He gave me he inserted my real beard into it, which is fun.
I think he captured things well. I have a boyish innocence and I live stress-free.
You do look very boyish.
and you are like a mess.
What am I holding?
Are you holding a book?
I don't know. What is that?
A sidur.
Maybe.
A prayer book. Help me!
We got to ask him about that. I never thought about that, really.
Buckle up with my
Oh, yeah,
son.
you have an open book and I have a closed book. What is that?
I like that.
Huh.
I'm much more open.
That was a nice touch. I never noticed that, did you?
And now you like the logo more? Tell me. Even more than you did?
I always liked the logo. I still think we need to work on the fonts a little bit. That's my only thing. But I like the logo
I am
a lot.
an open book and you have a closed book.
Yeah.
You're clenching it.
I'm
You're stuck and rigid to your ideas, tried and tested that do not work.
My eyes
Well,
are
I am open.
But you're also not even reading it or listening to it.
I'm listening to an audiobook.
You're listening to an audiobook while you read the book.
And you're wondering if you should even start.
Hey,
That is Buckle Up, episode 71. Back in business, baby. Summer session is over. Stay tuned for more announcements coming up. Big things to announce regarding Buckle Up and our future and exciting things to come.
Yeah, so I think we're probably going to take the next couple of weeks during the Jewish high holidays slow, and then come out real strong with some exciting announcements afterwards. So
Very cool.
Stick with us. Thank you. Buckle up, baby. Oh, yeah.